What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Double F Outdoors, guys. We have got something really special for you today. We have got Blue Line Fishing, Eric from Blue Line Fishing. Eric, go ahead and say hi.
Hey, how you guys doing? Good to be here.
Yes, we are so glad. Once again, technology is awesome. And today I want Blue Line to talk about the spinnerbait because he has shown me a lot in the little time we've really been connected about spinnerbaits. And for so long, I thought spinnerbaits was early spring when the water's cold and late fall when the season's about over. And that's the only time you can fish it. Every other time of the year, you got to be throwing something else. But I learned very quickly that is not true. And I got to experience it firsthand last year. That is definitely not true. So today I'm going to have Eric talk about just some spinnerbait fishing tips, kind of how he uses them as the seasons and the year progresses, because one of the great things we talk about fishing is it's a puzzle, and you always got to figure out the puzzle. But the cool thing about fishing is the puzzle changes as the weather changes. Even pieces get taken away and put in. But this is a piece that I think a lot of people take away that really should stay. So I want him to kind of talk about that, how you transition through the seasons, and how it can be effective in multiple ways. And then he's going to show us, as most of you know that follow my channel, if you're new, Eric runs his own spinnerbait company, Ripjaw Lures. I'm actually one of their, I guess, sort of sponsored, sort of pro team, whatever.
Yeah.
I get a lot of fun stuff from Eric, and I absolutely love them. We've seen fish on my channel caught by them. The Summer Shad series is one of my favorites with the kickstand blade, stuff like that. So he's going to show us some of his products, talk about it. But sir, I'm going to give the floor to you because this is your area expertise.
All right. Well, spinnerbaits, and I'll tell you, I've been infatuated with spinnerbaits for a long time. I mean, 20 plus years. I've been making them for about 18. But the reason I like spinnerbaits, two reasons really. Number one, they're a power fishing bait. They're a reaction bait for the most part. And so I can cover a lot of water in a short amount of time, and I'm going to pick up those fish that are wanting to bite, get that reaction strike. Number two, normally when a bass hits a spinnerbait, they absolutely try and destroy it when they hit it. I mean, they're trying to just crush it, kill it right on the spot. So it makes for, just makes for fun fishing. But the thing I've learned over the years, when I really got serious about spinnerbait fishing, and I really got turned on to spinnerbait fishing by Rick Clunn. He's obviously a legend, won multiple classics and other accolades, but he's a guy, if you watch fish a spinnerbait, will also fish that spinnerbait year round. People think it's early spring, late fall when the shad spawn's happening, things like that. And it's a fantastic bait for that. But with that being said, I'll start late winter, early spring, usually into the late winter, slow rolling the spinnerbait. I have a video on my channel where I'm catching fish. And when I say slow roll, what I mean is you're just running that bait along the bottom or whatever structure. It could be rocks, could be a weed bed, just enough to get those blades to barely turn over and keeping that bait moving. Well, as the water starts to warm up a little bit, I'm going to fish that bait a little bit faster. But the thing I think people don't understand about a spinnerbait is it is a contact bait, just like a jig is or creature bait or anything else. In other words, when I throw that out, it's not a chuck and wind bait. There's times when you can chuck it out and burn it back in and you're going to catch fish. But when I throw it out, if I see a big laydown, for example, a big tree in the water, brush, whatever, I'm going to throw it dead in the middle of it, the nastiest part where you think you would just never get a bait back out of. But a spinnerbait is pretty weedless if you're not running a trailer hook on it, which I normally don't. And I will throw it up in there, and all the way in the back of that tree, brush, what have you. And I'm just barely moving that thing out, letting it fall, moving it out, letting it fall. And I'm repeat that all the way out. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to start working out from the trunk of that tree, doing the same thing until I've covered that whole tree or I've covered that whole section of brush. If I'm reeling it back in and I've got some type of obstruction, it could be a dock, it could be laydowns. I'm going to run it into that. And as soon as I hit it, I'm going to change my retrieve speed. A guy that's really fantastic at doing that is Kevin Van Dam. Of course, when it comes to bass fishing, he's a stud all the way around, but his spinnerbait technique is phenomenal. Jacob Wheeler's another one. And those guys do the same thing, though. When they hit and they get something in the water, they get a deflection, they're going to rip that bait, let it die. Kind of that stall and fall is what they call it. So it's a big-time contact bait, and most people don't fish it like that. I mean, they'll fish it near structure, but they don't fish it in structure and really just almost trying to get that bait hung up is what I'm trying to do every time. Or if I'm fishing a weed bed, like last year when you were with me, the weeds, maybe just a foot or two underneath the water, I'm letting that bait just tick across the top, even get down in it and then rip it out, let it fall back down. And I can do that all through the spring, all through the summer, and well into the fall. And, I fish a spinnerbait. It's my number one bait, whether I'm tournament fishing or fishing for fun. It's a bait I've always got tied on. It's a bait, honestly, that never fails me. I almost always catch fish on the spinnerbait. And all my big fish, 7 pounds plus, with the exception of maybe a handful, have come on a spinnerbait. It's my confidence bait. Like a lot of guys, they may have confidence in a creature bait. They may have confidence in a crankbait. But spinnerbait is the one, it's a go-to. It's just such an incredibly versatile lure between what you can do with the skirt colors, the skirt sizes, trailers on them, blade combinations. The blade combinations are just hundreds and hundreds of blade combinations. And with that being said, I'll show you some of the blade combinations and colors that I like. Like right now, for example, with the first full moon we had here in May, you have the bluegill and the red ear spawn going on. And with that being said, this has been a really, really popular bait that I've been selling. But not only that, but the reason I made this skirt color and this blade combination, you can see it's a bluegill colored skirt, but it's got that greenish, orangish, blue hue to it. And then I've got the gold Colorado blade and the number 4.5 willow, gold willow. It just really mimics a bluegill. And this has been on fire for me catching them and other guys that are using them too. Another one that I really like when we're around the bluegill beds and fishing that type of area and fishing the structure around it is this peanut butter and jelly. And you see it's got a copper colored skirt. And the funny thing about a copper colored skirt, back in the late 80s and the 90s, we fished these a lot. And the copper color has kind of just, I don't know why, it just is kind of gone out of fashion, if you will. But it's just a killer color that you do not see a lot of guys throwing. Now, this particular spinnerbait has what's called a roto blade on it, or an always spin. It was actually designed to put on a lot of walleye rigs and things, but I put them on with the Colorado blade because it creates a tremendous amount of thump. And that's the thing about a spinnerbait. One like this with the willow is going to have more flash and less vibration, so maybe a little better and clear to stained water. One like this, and that darker stained water all the way to muddy water, it looks like chocolate milk, it's going to be a little better because of that more vibration, the more thump it puts out. With that being said, there's always exceptions to the rule. I've been fishing crystal clear water, and this is hot. I've been fishing super muddy water and throw this, and all of a sudden this is hot. But this time of year, like I say, when we're fishing in and around the bluegill, the red ear beds, I'm going to throw those. And the shad spawn is going on right now where we're at. The gizzard shad and the threadfin shad, most of the stripper pits that we have around here and lakes have the threadfin shad in them. So, I'm throwing usually solid white, and I do like that number 4 Colorado with the roto on it. It's just fantastic when it comes to a shad spawn. And same with this, a chartreuse in white or a chartreuse in blue, because I'm going to try and home in and capitalize on that match the hatch, if you will, try and capitalize on that shad spawn. Because when you see them a lot of times, they'll be at the top of the water, the shad will kind of balled up. And when they're doing that, that's what they're doing. They're spawning, but that's the time too, those predator fish, the bass, crappie, everything else, the bigger crappie, they're going to be around, and it's just a free-for-all. And
Yeah.
that's the best time to throw that spinnerbait and rip it through there. And then, that may be one of those times you can burn that bait, what they call waking it. In other words, it's just under the surface, causing almost like a boat wake as it, comes by. They get a quick look at the bait. They're not really sure. 9 times out of 10, that's where you'll get that reaction strike.
Mm-hmm.
So, spinnerbaits, like I say, there's the misconception that it's just early springtime, late fall lure. Just not true. It's just such an incredibly versatile. I mean, I can fish it like a crankbait, like a jig. I can flip it. I can pitch it. And there's so many things I can do with the bait. That's why I like it so much, because it just puts fish in the boat, and not just numbers, but it puts big fish in the boat too, which is, I'm all about either small, large, as long as I'm catching fish, I'm happy.
That is true. And guys, it is amazing too, because I remember we kind of joked around after we got off the water last year. He'd been telling me all this for so long, and I'd watched his videos and I was like, yeah, I guess he's right. And then we went down there for the Southern Indiana series, and he made me a believer in about 10 minutes. I mean, it was just like that. And we talk about confidence baits. I think we both started throwing either a stick bait or a rattle trap. And it was about 10 minutes. He goes, well, I'm picking up the spinner bait. And I go, well, I'm picking up this creature bait. And it's funny he brought that up, that you can fish it like a creature bait, because that is how I like to fish. And that is my confidence bait, is a lot of pitching and flipping isolated things of brush. But even I've texted him and shown him pictures, because like I said, I get a lot of fun stuff from him, and we've kind of teamed up for a lot of stuff this last year and a half. And I've been sending pictures because I've been using the things he's taught me, and we've seen it on my videos, and just I feel like I've become a better fisherman with some of these tips. And once again, it's always funny how you can watch a video and say, yeah, sure, I guess. And then I'll go out to the pond with only 3 rods that have creature baits on them, and I won't throw anything else. But once you see it in person, you're like, well, maybe I ought to try this a little more than just watching on video. So it is interesting, especially because for so long I had told him that that's what I thought a spinnerbait was for. It was just early spring and late fall. And I'd even take them out of my tackle box if I didn't have room, and they'd sit at home until late fall. But it has been great. And like I said, I'll link his channel and his the Instagram for Ripjaw Lures and his Facebook. If you guys are interested, definitely get his give an order. They've got a lot of cool stuff. They've got jigs too. He's got that sent my way. I'll post some pictures on my Instagram, and you'll probably see him in videos very soon. In that bluegill color, I'm really excited for that. But we just want to thank Blue Line for all the tips today. I'm really excited for, like we announced in the last video, Southern Indiana Series Part 2. I know that spinnerbait will come into play at some point that day. So to get to
absolutely
show it in action and let everybody see it. And guys, definitely go over to his channel. Like I said, I'll link it below. He's got videos on all this stuff. He's got it in action. Like he said, that video of him slow rolling it was also something I learned. And I actually took that strategy with my chatterbait last year, early spring, when it was still really cold, like February, and had one of the best starts to my year I've ever had. I think a lot of people remember that pretty big bass I caught early in the year last year. I was doing the same thing, just with a chatterbait instead of a spinnerbait, and just it makes for an interesting morning. And I know especially for me, it wasn't too bad of a transition for me, because I'm pretty slow already with the way I fish, but it can be time consuming to really remind yourself, okay, slow down. But it definitely works. So once again, Eric, thank you for these tips. I hope everybody finds these very as knowledgeable as I found them, and help me kind of widen my arsenal that I can throw. But sir, we are excited to get to fishing with you soon. When this video comes out, it'll be about 2.5, 3 weeks before we hit the road to head your way. So we're looking forward to it. If you guys did not see the last video where we talk about it, we're going back down there here, right from today, about a month and a half. So it's going to be here before we know it. I'm looking really forward to it. But I don't know if you've got any closing remarks or not, but
hey, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Look forward to fishing with you when you come down here. We're gonna do just like last year. We're gonna make it happen. Hopefully we can put another 6+ pounder in the boat, but we'll see what happens. But I promise you one thing: we'll have a good time.
Yes, we will have a good time. The one thing I actually, before I got on yesterday, I watched the Southern Indiana Series Part 1. I went back and rewatched it, and I forget, somewhere in one of those videos, there's a comment, I think you made it, that we are the floating buffet. on water.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree with that. It was pretty funny last year. At one time we were both throwing frogs, and that was pretty quickly we figured out that wasn't happening. But from that point on, I mean, I was flipping a creature bait. He was power fishing with rattle traps and spinnerbaits. It was an interesting time. But hey, like you said, we had a blast and it was a lot of fun and we made it happen. But I know that once again, kind of like you said in the last video, having that variety is sometimes good out there on the water. Both honing in on something with bass that I have, as I've gotten older and done more research, is it's amazing to me how there can be a bass that is ready to kill a spinnerbait, but is not interested in looking at anything else. Like that is all they're focused on. They're not looking at a worm. They're not looking at a creature bait. They're not looking at a frog. That is what they're dialed in on. And then it's always interesting when you get out there with two guys doing completely different things, but both can be so successful because one guy's catching those fish dialed in on one thing and the other guy's catching the fish dialed in on the other thing. And I actually think it's more.
Yeah, and I would say too, you know, we talked about last year, and I'm sure everybody that's watching has had this happen, where you won't listen to what the fish are telling you. What I mean by that is, you know, how many times you've been fishing and say you get a little bit of a backlash and, you know, your lure's sitting out there for the better part of a minute, and all of a sudden you get that backlash out, you reel up the slack, move it, bam, you've got a fish. What's that tell you? They want that bait slowed down, but you'll go right back to the way you were fishing. Or, you know, you'll throw the lure out the other side of the boat, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, and you're messing around doing something, and all of a sudden, bam, you catch a fish. Well, there's a reason that just happened, but I'm just as bad as anybody else. I won't listen to what the fish are telling me, and I'll go right back to the other way I was fishing when the fish are trying to say, hey, this is what we want to this is what we want to bite on, this is how we want to feed. But you know, that's what makes fishing unique. You know, it's that puzzle you got to figure out, and you got to listen to them. So.
Oh yeah, it is. And the other thing I will say is we will try our best this year to not catch any log fishes, because that happened multiple times. I went back. I cringed watching some of those clips. Like, oh, I got one. No, I don't. I just sat there for about 30 seconds. I was like, oh wait, my line's going completely the opposite direction. It was just, it was an interesting time. But once again, sir, thank you for the tips. We are excited.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we are excited to get down there. Like I said, follow his stuff. I'll have it all linked below. Follow our stuff because we'll be posting stuff as we get closer. And then I know we're going to get something done. Like you said, I don't know what it'll be. It might not be a 7-pounder, but we'll get something to happen. And if anything, we'll try to teach you guys.
We'll make it happen.
Yes, we'll make it happen. That is something that we will definitely try. But guys, thank you, Blue Line. Thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
But guys, once again, go give his stuff a follow. It's awesome stuff. Check out his lures. I've been using them. In fact, some of those ones he showed you are headed my way. I'm here pretty quick. So we'll definitely see pictures of those on my Instagram.
Sure.
So, guys, we'll see you later. Blue Line, say goodbye.
See you guys. Have a great weekend.
Yes, you have a great weekend, and we will see you guys next time.